Greetings! I hope you guys are doing well. Today we are going to discuss two-dimensional shapes. The standard we'll be covering today is CCSS Math Content 5GB4, where we will classify two-dimensional figures in a hierarchy based on their properties. First, let us talk about what constitutes a two-dimensional figure. A two-dimensional figure is a figure that has length and width but no depth. In other words, the figure does not have volume. Let's take the example of a circle and compare it to that of a cylinder. Both of these figures have length and width, but only one of them has depth. The circle has no volume, it looks flat. However, this cylinder looks as if it pops off the page, which tells us that it has depth and volume. This aspect of volume, as the shaded region shows, is what makes a cylinder a three-dimensional figure. Some basic two-dimensional shapes include circles, rectangles, triangles, and squares. These are not all of them, but just a few to begin our understanding of two-dimensional objects. By the end of this video, we are going to create a hierarchy of two-dimensional shapes. Before we can do that, we need to know key characteristics that make this figure what it is. First up, we have a polygon, which is a two-dimensional closed shape that has at least 3 straight sides and angles. A quadrilateral is a two-dimensional closed shape that has 4 straight sides. A parallelogram is a two-dimensional closed shape that has 2 pairs of parallel sides equal in length. This shape has 4 sides. Sides 1 and 2 are opposite of one another and have equal length. Sides 3 and 4 are also opposite one another, having equal length. So, as the definition states, there are 2 pairs of opposite sides with equal lengths. We have sides 1 and 2 as one pair, and sides 3 is 4 as the second pair. A rhombus is a two-dimensional closed shape that has 4 sides with 2 opposite obtuse angles and 2 opposite acute angles, meaning the degree of the angle is less than 90 degrees for the acute angles, and the degree of the obtuse angles is between 90 and 180 degrees. A rectangle is a two-dimensional closed shape that has 4 straight sides of different lengths and 4 right angles. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 straight sides, and each angle, there are 4 angles, are right angles. A square is a two-dimensional closed shape that has 4 straight sides, all of equal length, as you can see in this image. A kite, in the geometric sense, not like the one you fly, is a two-dimensional closed shape that has 2 pairs of adjacent sides. So in this picture, we have if we had a dotted line going along the y-axis of this shape, you could flip this side over on this side and it would look like this. This tells us that a kite is a geometric figure, because both of these sides are equivalent to one another and are mirror images if you were to flip it across the y-axis here. When I say there are 2 pairs of adjacent sides, adjacent just means the side next to it. So if we're looking at this side right here, the adjacent side is this side right here. It's the one right next to it. So this is 1 pair of adjacent sides. If we look at this side right here, the shorter side, the adjacent side to this side would be this one because it's right next to it. So this is the second pair of adjacent sides. So you have 2 pairs of adjacent sides within a kite. All right, and then a trapezoid is a two-dimensional closed shape that has only 1 pair of parallel sides. So sides 2 and 4 right here, they are parallel lines. Just because they don't have the same length does not mean they're not parallel. These are parallel. So they will run along each other without ever intersecting. Now that we know the attributes of these figures, we can place them in a hierarchy. This hierarchy will be composed of levels where the figures will share the same attributes. All of these figures that we can see here, they all have at least 3 sides and at least 3 angles. This makes it a polygon. So we know that our first level of the hierarchy is a polygon. The figures are also all closed shapes that have 4 straight sides. And all of these are closed shapes with 4 straight sides, even if that side is angled. So we know that the quadrilateral is the second level. Our first diversion is here because not all quadrilaterals have 2 parallel lines of the same length, which is what a parallelogram is. So we're going to split the hierarchy into parallelograms and non-parallelograms. Rhombuses and rectangles, as we can see here, are similar in shape, but rhombuses have 2 different types of angles, and rectangles have 4 angles of the same type. So rhombuses, there's one pair, 1, 2, of 2 angles opposite one another that are obtuse, meaning that they are between 90 and 180 degrees. They also have a pair of 2 angles opposite one another that are acute, meaning that they have less than 90 degrees. However, in the rectangle, we can see here, they have 4 straight sides with 4 right angles equaling 90 degrees. This is what separates these two. Alright, so these are both parallelograms because they have 2 pairs of parallel sides that are equal in length. However, the rhombus has 2 pairs of angles, 1 pair of obtuse angles, 1 pair of acute angles, and the rectangle has 4, all of its angles are right angles. Squares belong to both of these categories because squares have 4 sides of the same length. So that would make this belong, because square has all of the qualities of a rectangle, a rhombus, a parallelogram, a quadrilateral, and a polygon. But the ones above square have more qualification than that, so they are at a higher ranking. If we go back to the non-parallelogram side, we have trapezoids and kites. So here, trapezoids have 2 pairs of parallel sides. So this is 1 pair of parallel sides, 1 and 2 sides of parallel lines. But they have different lengths. Kites have 2 pairs of adjacent sides, so 1 pair of adjacent, 1 pair of adjacent. Just as a side note, there are other shapes that do not qualify as parallelograms, so they are non-parallelograms. And they fall under the category of other, such as this one. So this completes our hierarchy of 2-dimensional figures. The most common misconception is about squares. You may have heard squares are rectangles, but rectangles are not always squares. Why is that? Remember, rectangles have 4 straight sides of different lengths and 1, 2, 3, 4 right angles. And squares have 4 straight sides and 4 right angles, but their sides are all the same, whereas the rectangle has different lengths. So this length and this length are different, just as this length and this length are different. Squares are like a special kind of rectangle. Let's take a real-world example. Let's say we print out a picture. I'm sure that one of your parents has done this in the past. So let's say that this is a 4x6 image. Okay, and so this would be a rectangle. If we cropped this photo to make the dimensions 4x4, and it's usually done in inches, so 4 inches by 6 inches, 4 inches by 4 inches. So you'd be cropping this 4x6 into a 4x4. So this 4x4 could hypothetically fit inside of this rectangle of a 4x6. However, the 4x6 is too large to fit into this square of a 4x4. That is why a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. Another misconception involves the orientation of a figure. Just because a figure is turned a certain way does not mean it is any different. For example, let's say that we take this square and we tilt it on one of its sides. So this is the original orientation, we just flipped it a little bit. So we're flipping it on this corner. This kind of looks like a rhombus, right? If you see here, these look very similar. The rhombus kind of looks like if you just tilted it like that, right? But it does not mean that it is a rhombus just because it looks like a rhombus. When classifying two-dimensional objects, we must look at the attributes that classify a figure. So these are those attributes, you know? So the rhombus is a two-dimensional closed shape that has 4 sides, which that shares in common with a square. But where the difference comes is that the rhombus has 2 opposite angles of 180 or to 90 degrees and 2 angles of less than 90 degrees, where this square has all of the same lengths of the sides, so all of the angles are the same. All right, so once again, here is the hierarchy. We have polygon, quadrilateral, which then breaks into parallelogram and non-parallelogram. The parallelogram breaks into rhombus and square, and these can be broken down, rhombus and rectangle, and these can be broken down into a square. For the non-parallelogram, we have trapezoid, kite, and other shapes that do not belong to this category. I hope this video helps, and I will upload these documents to the class blog, and you can always contact me if you need any extra help or questions. Thank you.